Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June Master Gardener Program Coordinator meeting. Yeah, we have a lot today. We've had a lot the last few meetings, so that must mean that we have a lot on our plates, and I think we, as a team, are working well together and meeting our expectations for ourselves and each other, and moving forward, I'm really proud of our Master Gardener program and the work that we are doing together. So thank you all for your efforts. So I have a couple of announcements. First of all, in the recent Ag and Natural Resources Unit meeting, Karen Lewis asked us to make sure that we are putting our events into the Connors events submission form. She indicated that our new dean, Raj Khosla, WSU Central Leadership, they're using that calendar to see what's going on around the university and in extension. And so I ask you to go ahead and put your events in there, in particular the events that are open to anybody beyond even your specific county. I'll put the link to that in the chat if you guys don't know where to find that. So I'll go ahead and put that in. And then I also want to remind you that the awards nominations are open. The forms are available. I will also put a link to that in the chat. Nominations are due July 15th. So please consider nominating a well-deserving volunteer from your respective counties. And before I turn it over for our professional development bit from Jana and Todd, Aaron, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. When you say our events, is that like our garden tours, any workshops we're doing, or is it more like state? Okay.
Yep. Get them on there. Let's brag. Yeah. And I'll show you in a second kind of what that looks like. But before I fully turn it over to professional development, please welcome me in congratulating Lauren Imes and the Island County Master Gardener volunteers for earning first place in the David Gibby Search for Excellence category of Community Outreach and Education for their Whidbey Gardening Workshop. Lauren, woohoo, I know, right? That's exciting. Way to go, Lauren and team.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Lauren, you submitted a press release. Do you know where that's at?
I have not heard back from the WSU Insider or anybody at WSU, but send it all to our local papers and everything, and those have been published. So getting the word out.
Did you send it to Connors or to the WSU Insider?
I did it through the Connors website.
Okay. If maybe I'll send it directly to my contact there. We see if we can get something. Yeah. After I sent it, will you send me back the final version of the press release?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. So again, congratulations. And if you want to be a part of the recognition, attend the International Master Gardener Conference hosted by Texas AgriLife. It's a virtual conference this year, August 25th through the 28th. There is no Planet B. We have 6 people from Washington registered for this conference. Texas has 279. We have a ways to go. So please encourage your volunteers to attend if they want to. Should be a fun conference. All right, so now I want to turn it over to Jana, and she's going to walk us through the Cliff Notes version of EP 14, and then answer any questions. And then after Jana, Todd has some updates for us on agency roles. So go ahead, Jana.
Hey, can I have the screen?
Yep.
All right, I know there's a lot of questions about EP 14 and it can get a little bit confusing. So I'm going to kind of walk you through whenever I make decisions for EP 14 and how I figure out whether something is applicable or not, or whether somebody needs to have training. So I want to show you the easy way that I look stuff up because I don't remember where anything is. I just go to the WSU website and do their search button, and you'll see I do EP 14 a lot because even if I blank that out, if I just click on it, it comes up. So I just go to this page so that I can take a look at it myself. And it comes right up the actual policy. So the thing that you need to look for if you're trying to determine whether or not it is, if it's a program that you have to register, or if the policy applies, you go to the applicability part. And this part's pretty easy. It says any university programs, employees, volunteers, students, etc., involving minors on WSU property or sponsored by or affiliated with WSU. And you can go further down in the policy and look at definitions, and you'll see that WSU property is anything we own or we lease or we have control of. So pretty much if we're doing stuff in our offices or in our own facilities in the county or whatever, that's considered WSU properties. But the part to look at is the part down here about what doesn't qualify. Nothing dealing with undergraduates. Events that are open to the public, to the general public, that minors attend at the sole discretion and under the supervision of their parents or guardians. However, field trips sponsored, controlled, staffed, and supervised by a minors participant school do not qualify, but if WSU personnel supervise it, then it does qualify. So it's kind of if we're in charge of it, and if we're in charge of the planning, and we're in charge of making sure that everything is going along fine, people are safe, we are creating the content and all that, then it does apply. If, however, we are going into a school and doing, gardening lessons for kids, and we're not the ones in charge, we don't have any control over what room we're going to be in or how many adults are there or anything like that, it's not our event. However, that being said, anybody, and this is the way it's interpreted right now, and we are seeking clarification because the actual policy is written kind of wonky because it says this does not apply if it's not our event. However, later on it says any authorized or program staff that are going to work with children for minors have to receive EP 14 training. So we're going with, if you have volunteers that you know are going to be working with kids, they are required to complete the EP 14 training. And in the 4-H program, it's every volunteer has to. So my role is double checking with 4-H enrollment of volunteers and whether or not they have completed the training. With Master Gardeners, I don't know which of your volunteers are working with youth. So it's kind of your responsibility in the county to make sure that those volunteers have conducted their training. As long as you've notified them that they are supposed to, if you are having trouble getting people to complete their training, I will be more than happy to send them the communication I send other volunteers that says, hey, you were supposed to complete this training, you haven't completed it, we're going to give you a little bit more time to complete it, and start down that rabbit hole. But I won't know which of those volunteers haven't completed that training unless you let me know that you're having difficulty getting somebody to do that. So the policy enforcement with training pretty much lies in your office with any of your volunteers that do work with youth to make sure that they have completed the training. In the process of creating kind of a Cliff's Note piece of it that can be slid into any of your like local office policies or anything that you do with your volunteers, with your master gardeners whenever they start, to get rid of that the part of the policy that says they have to sit through this dreary hour-long diatribe of a training every year. So I'm trying to make it a little bit easier on our volunteers. Any questions with that? Groovy.
Jim, I have a question. If we have like a Zoom meeting with several of our members come and we actually read through the entire training together, does that count or do they have to do it individually?
You can do a group training, but it's not reading through it. You have to actually show the training, log into the Extension Foundation site. And I know several of my 4-H colleagues do that. They just
Mhm.
show it through Zoom and then they keep a list of who all participated. And I think, I'm pretty sure in Teams, there is a Word document in the volunteer development channel in the all extension team section, that there's a roster there that you can complete and send to me, and I'll keep track that they have received their training.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is, if we have interns that are new this year and they're still interns, do they need to complete that training even though they've already this year did the child first training?
Yes, this is not a and or on the child first. This is not an or, it's an and. You have to do both trainings.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And will this be a yearly thing?
Well, I'm hoping that we can do some type of a Cliff's Note version of it, because unfortunately, your volunteers get to see the type of professional development that we're required to complete,
Right.
because we have to sit through the same exact training, and it's awful, and I don't like to teach that way. So I'm working with risk management to get a shortened version, because we already have policies in place that cover a lot of this.
Okay, thank you. And then one more question, sorry. The
No
training
problem.
actually, it's EP 14, and then when you go through the training, it actually goes to the next training of the EP 15. Do we need to go through that with our volunteers as well, or do we stop at that point?
So far, I have held that one off, but that's going to be another one that eventually our volunteers will have to do. But I'm trying to hold that one off until I can get an agreement with risk management to lower the length and the intensity of those trainings. But eventually, yeah, there's a lot of unrealistic expectations about what all we need to train our volunteers on. So I'm working, negotiating on those things. So I'm not going to push that one out there yet.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, one more question, and then I'll stop.
No
So the
problem, really.
Okay, so the child first, do they have to have that every year? Because
No.
somebody mentioned, okay, I think
No.
it's every 3 years, is that correct, or?
Actually, it's only once at this point. We are in the process of redoing that, and it'll probably be, they'll have to take the new training because it's going to have new information on it. And then there'll be like an annual refresher that's just, remember this piece, remember that piece.
Okay, thank you.
And that child first training will also include training on working with vulnerable adults and how to address those situations. And really, anybody, if you have, I'll get to you in just a second, Sarah. If you have questions, please feel free, probably best to email me and let me know when you might be available to chat, or if it's an email question I can answer, I'll do that. I'm only working 20 hours a week right now, and so I'm not working 4 hours straight any day because I can't sit with my foot down for more than like an hour. So if you just, text me or send me an email and say, hey, I'd like to chat with you about something, here's some times when I'm available, I'll email you back and let you know when I can do it. Sarah.
Yeah, Janet, it's not a question as much as a comment that we have a 10-hour requirement for continuing education every year for the master gardeners. And if there were something that they needed to take and we were able to just say, this is, this will count as 1 hour of your CE and you must do it. I think that's perfectly fair. I think it's not setting an unreasonable expectation that part of their training would be something, related to how they engage with the public rather than about gardening.
Sure. Thanks for that comment. I appreciate it.
And then there was a comment in the chat. Can the first request language be sent to us again? I don't know what, like the request for what, Beth?
Oh, sorry, just what was initially sent out, unless maybe that's sitting in Teams. What was initially sent out to us to make this request to our volunteers.
I don't know that anything was sent out.
Right.
So how are we to communicate this to our volunteers?
I don't know. Can some of you explain how some of you have done training? Can you explain how you notified your volunteers?
I mean, only reason I ask is because I haven't done it, and then I heard you say, Jana, that what you do in 4-H is that if people aren't responding to it, that you send out something from your letterhead or from your email.
Yeah, with all 4-H volunteers and actually all extension volunteers were required, if they work with youth, they were required to complete the training by June 1st. And so what I did was I'm pulling enrollment data for 4-H and I can compare that against who completed it, but I didn't do any of the notification.
So who notified the 4-H member? I'm
Their
unsure.
local, I think their local coordinators and faculty are the ones that notified them.
Mhm.
Okay, so
held a
Jason just said he did his verbally.
Yeah. We held a training for coordinators on this. What was it, back in
May
May of last year?
of last year, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if if Beth, if you need help crafting a message, let me know and I'll help you with that.
I do.
Okay.
All right.
Let me
I'll
send you
email.
something and then you can change it if you need to for your volunteers.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jana. Anything else for Jana? Okay, well, I hope that helped clarify for all of us. Todd, what do you have for us on the agency role reminder world?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. We're having some internet issues over here. This is just a quick reminder of our role in context of making pest management recommendations. And generally our other state agencies look to us as the conduit for offering pest management advice. And so we're the ones that agencies like WSDA, Washington State DNR, and sometimes even Fish and Wildlife might recommend to people that they interact with as the general public that's gardening oriented, they'll send to the Master Gardener program. Agencies like Washington State Department of Agriculture do not make pesticide recommendations, so don't go to them looking for those recommendations. If you're having struggles coming up with a recommendation, don't hesitate to reach out to me, any one of the other A&R colleagues that have the ability to make pesticide recommendations and other pest management recommendations that we don't have yet in your materials. Just ask for help, but don't send those people or the general public to WSDA or the Washington State Invasive Species Council. What you do want to go to them for, and I'd prefer you loop me or Jennifer in, is if you do find something that they should be concerned about, like a new pest in the state or something like that. But we're the ones that are kind of responsible for making recommendations. For vertebrate pests, though, that is where we may then send people to consult with Fish and Wildlife, because some of the vertebrates that pop up as pests in the home and garden might require some permitting. So that's an instance where we would send people to Fish and Wildlife. And if you're not familiar with this resource, I'll drop it in the chat. I think we used to have this in your packet of good resources to use, but this is an awesome resource. We'll get it reviewed. But it's Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife's Living with Wildlife. And it's just a great series of fact sheets that kind of explain what vertebrate pests you do need permits for and so forth. But this is just a reminder. We started getting some emails from the Department of Agriculture asking why are we asking them for pest management recommendations. And this is mostly in context of a new turf pest that we have in the Puget Sound region. So we'll offer training for everyone here shortly on what those recommendations look like for the new pests coming in. And that's all I got. Be happy to answer any questions, or hopefully all that made sense.
So I guess as coordinators, what has happened, or it seems to me like what has happened is there are our volunteer clinicians are referring clients to WSDA.
Yeah.
Rather than us, rather than the volunteer reaching up to you as the coordinator, or to me or to Todd or other people in A&R to support them in their pest management advice. And so as you're working through your trainings with volunteers, just would be good to remind them of these different roles and the role that we play specifically in pest management to support WSDA, Fish and Wildlife, Invasive Species Council. Right, Todd?
Yeah, and this is also in light of, I don't know if many were part of the program when Northern Giant Hornets came in, and WSDA got a lot of money, and so they were able to hire outreach coordinators. And so Cassie's been making the rounds, and I think when she's out in the public, then she looks like somebody who would be offering that kind of advice. But I think that's where a lot of the perception that WSDA would offer pest management advice.
Any questions for Todd? Do all of you know Todd? Todd, how are you connected? Tell them who you are.
Most everybody. I'm faculty in A&R. I've been working with the Master Gardener program since I've been with WSU, and have moved into a administrative role. So my contact seems to be unfortunately a little bit less, but the nature of my position's changing, and so please utilize me for anything pest management or entomology related. We'll start trying to push out more advanced training opportunities for master gardeners and get that re-engagement with the program to provide more regular advanced training specifically for pest management, pest recommendations, pest diagnosis.
Right. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks. Good to see everybody.
You too. All right, let me see if I can get back to where I want to be here. All right, so I stuck a couple of, are you seeing the professional development slide right now? Okay, thank you. I put a couple of links in the chat, one for the Connors calendar and then another for the awards. All right, let's see. We can talk about Green School now. And I'm excited to let you know that the PNW Gardener's Handbook Growing for the Future is now published and available. Yes, look at Tim. Yeah, I know. That's what I did too, Tim. It's not fully accessible at the moment. It will be accessible by the time the law goes into place, I think, in April of 2026. They're working on making sure that it is. But since it's not fully accessible, it can be found on our WSU Pubs extension in the store, but it's archived, so it's a little hard to search for. You have to actually type Green School into the search bar, and it will come up for you. So it's actually been out there for a couple of weeks, and I waited to share because I am, 99.9% certain that the next question that we're going to get after we let our volunteers know that this is available is that, how much CE do I get for reading it?
Mm-hmm.
And so after a couple of conversations with coordinators and with volunteers from various counties, I'm leaning toward following our CE policy that is in our handbook, which requires that reading doesn't count for continuing education unless it is research in preparation to deliver a presentation or write a newspaper or a newsletter article, which is then published. In our policy, it says what doesn't count is personal research or reading not related to a WSU Master Gardener project. So if a volunteer wants to read the book or chapters of this textbook for CE, I'm leaning toward they will need to deliver a presentation or write an article that is then published. I just don't know any other way to offer CE equitably for reading this book.
I think that's really smart. I'm very happy to follow that as a guideline.
Thanks, Beth. I was just going to say, I want your thoughts. What are you guys thinking?
I like your idea. The other one would be to just give them a flat, like 1 or 2 hours or something, because everybody reads different speeds and whatnot. I had somebody try to get CE for reading books. I'm like, how long did it take you? I mean, I don't know. So I like it.
Okay. Go ahead, Sarah. And Junie. What does Junie think, Sarah?
Everything's just marvelous for Junie. He says all your ideas are wonderful.
I love Junie.
I was gonna say I would like to give some kind of a flat, not too large amount of CE for familiarizing yourself with the contents rather than reading it. And then I like the idea of having a product come out of it, but I'm torn because I want all 600 of our Master Gardeners to read it. And I don't know what to do with if we actually got 600 articles, they couldn't all get published. I suppose 600, if they created talks, we could find venues for 600 talks or presentation. Maybe we have like an event where people show up and I mean, I want to say a science fair, but like a grown-up version where everybody comes and reports on their section.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that too. I thought, well, we want everybody to look at this, and not everybody is the type of person who's going to develop a talk or write an article, but we still want them to look at it. Yeah. So, okay, Caitlin May.
I was just gonna say that I like the kind of like incentive to create something because I think a lot of people will be interested in reading. So I feel like a lot of my volunteers they'll want to read it anyway. So then if we let them know they need to create a presentation or an article, I feel like that will really kind of just get that ball rolling for creating those materials.
Okay, I have that note. Laurel?
Um, I'm inclined to do kind of a set amount of CE hours specifically for the training committee, for all the volunteers that you have helped out with training, whether they're mentors or otherwise, because it just makes sense to have them very familiar with what the new interns are reading. I mean, I never pass up the opportunity to ask for somebody to make a presentation, but I think in this case, there should be some avenue to getting continuing education credits without producing a product.
Okay. And when I mean, I hear you, like making sure that the training teams really read it and, you know, but I want it to be equitable. I think it's important that it's equitable. So not everybody's on the training team. So if we offer it to the training team, I think we need to offer it to everyone. Caitlin Blevin.
I agree with Laurel and Sarah in that, especially around the new chapters, I really want to encourage the volunteers to read it and become familiar with it. Because in our small county, you know, all of our volunteers act as mentors for our new interns. And I think for them to really know what material they're coming out of class with is really important.
Okay. And Alice.
I was thinking that maybe people that are interested in reading it could prepare presentations based on the chapters and then have master gardeners attend the presentation of the handbook chapters. That would maybe fill all requirements.
I like that idea too. Okay. Well, what I want to, I'm trying to get this note down. So I want to think on this a little bit more, and I will put in writing what we decide to do. I'm going to think on it, and I want to chat more in depth with a couple others. Katie, do you have another?
I was just curious about your process. Are you going to send us an email with a link to it and CE allowances so that we can forward to our volunteers?
I will, and I will have it to you in the e-news. So when I do the monthly e-news, it will be in that.
Thank you.
So it'll be quick. I want this out. I want everybody. It's exciting. Yeah. Alice, did you have another comment, or is it still?
Back when I was in ultrasound, we had to do CE and we had to read a chapter or an article, and then we were given a quiz to take.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if that's not a possibility. That way they could get credit for the hours that they read it, but they have to take the quiz.
Eventually, maybe. Right now, it's not. We don't have the bandwidth to create the quizzes, and the quizzes that are available in Green School, we want to maintain those in Green School. But yes, Alice, I've known other entities that do that too. Okay, so but you guys can go get it, right? And find it and look at it right now. And if you're comfortable sharing it out with your volunteers without having an answer on CE, go for it. But I will do my best to have this out before the by Wednesday next week. It'll probably be Friday of this week. Thank you for the feedback. It's rough. It's hard to figure this out in a good way that will work for everybody. All right, and then registration is nearly ready for Green School. What you're seeing in front of you is what the screen will look like when somebody clicks on the link to register. Our next step with this is going to be to have a few Master Gardener volunteers who are wanting to take the course to help us test it out before we launch on August 15. So I will be reaching out. I have a couple already that have said they'll help me with it, but it would be good to have more than just a couple. And what happens is, so once they register, the learners will have the immediate requirement to select their group. And so if they are a Washington Gardner track learner, they will choose the Washington Gardner certificate track. If they're an Extension Master Gardener track learner, they will choose the county in which they have been accepted to train in. Bryce and I are working on written instructions along with a video explainer that you'll be able to use for supporting your Extension Master Gardener track learners in their registration. They will have a discount code, and I will provide those to you when the time comes closer. And then after this learners register and select their group, they will have the option to do some practicing in the before we begin section. So the orientation, connecting people and plants scheduled for week 1, and the previous and the courses or the modules that come after week 2, week 3, week 4, those will not be available until October 5th. Students will not see those until October 5th. They will be able to see this before you begin. And this before you begin gives learners the opportunity to practice getting into Zoom. They'll be able to download the textbook. They'll be able to read a Moodle quick user guide. Practice navigating through a lesson in Moodle. And that lesson will be about WSU, WSU Connors Extension, and the land grant mission. They'll be able to take a practice quiz and have the option to download the Moodle app. Not required, optional. The orientation sessions that you see here that are currently say hidden, Bryce and I are doing those for both tracks. I'm going to do the Extension Master Gardener Volunteer track, and Bryce is going to do the Washington Gardener Certificate track. And again, those orientations are going to include WSU, WSU Connors, WSU Extension. Mine will include the Extension Master Gardener Volunteer Program, and some policies and procedures, the high level ones that are statewide, just as a reminder, the land grant mission. So you know what they're going to get. It's that the orientation that is in the Teams folder that we've been using for years. So I'm going to use that. And it will include our program priorities as well. So you know that the students are getting that up front at the live Q&A review, and in the orientation, there'll be a slide deck there. That's not to say that during your local volunteer training, you don't touch on these things, because research shows that the more a volunteer understands their connection to the university and to the mission of the university, the stronger the program is, and the more bought in the volunteers are in serving the mission. So it's really important to make these connections to WSU. So I think the more we can do them throughout, the better off we can be. And then I'm going to turn it over to Bryce here. Bryce, this is I took highlights from the coordinator roles.
Okay, great. Do you want me to show the course at all or just talk about this? I'm happy to do either.
Either way, I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's almost 2 o'clock. Either way, if you want to show it, show it. We showed it a little bit last time. People like to see it, I think. I like to see it.
All right. Okay, so Hello, everybody. First of all, in the course that I'm building, so again, this is in Moodle. It looks a lot different. It works differently than Canvas. But I'm trying to be very purposeful about setting it up in such a way so that you as a coordinator in your county only see learners who have registered as who have applied, been accepted, registered, gone into this, and selected the Master Gardener group for your county. So that's all you'll see. So if you only have, 10 Master Gardener trainees for your county that you've accepted, that's all you're going to see, even though there's going to be hundreds of people in this course as a whole. So the cool thing is you'll be able to see your learners, but you'll be able to see the whole course, but nobody else's learners, if that makes sense. And I'm playing with the settings, but the idea is that you'll be able to, there's a little like messaging kind of email service within Moodle that you'll be able to use to send messages back and forth to people directly within that. You could post things, you could post like a syllabus or an announcement just to your people. You could send a file or directions or instructions, that kind of thing. And I can help people learn how to do that, because since this is a new learning management system, all the buttons are different than they are in Canvas. And then you can check on the progress of your own learners. I think that'll be one of the main things, is that you can see who's completed the quizzes and how they've done on them, and if they've worked their way through these different units. So like when people, I'll open up the botany one. Every time they get to a new chapter, let me just close that for a second. Okay, so there'll be a Zoom room for each week that we meet, because there'll be this Zoom Q&A session. But their study materials are within these blocks. So like if they opened up Basic Botany, they'd see activities for Basic Botany, and that's the whole interactive content. And then there's the quiz for Basic Botany, and you should be able to check on their progress on each of these things. So the activities part, it doesn't give them a grade, but you should be able to see that they did it, that they looked all the way through it. And then the quiz, obviously there's a grade, and they'll have a chance to redo the quiz as many times as they need to get a passing grade. I really like this kind of setup, because when I taught myself, I kind of didn't put anything in the learning management system that wasn't connected to something I could track, some sort of a grade, so I could see if people did it. So when people came to me with questions, I would know, had they actually looked at what they were supposed to look at, had they read it, had they gone through the things that they were supposed to, and how well they did on it. So that's what we have so far. Lots more to come. And I'll take questions if there's time.
So Bryce, what can they not do as teachers in Moodle?
Okay, well, one of the things I mentioned is you won't be able to see or interact with people who are just doing Washington Gardener Certificate. You won't see them at all, and you won't be able to interact with them in Moodle. And you won't be able to interact with those doing a Master Gardener training in other counties. You can't change the course itself, so you couldn't like change due dates or reorganize things or reorder things. The course, because we have Green School set up so that like the whole schedule is on the website, everybody's going to do that in lockstep. And also because we're having these live Q&A sessions that happen each week, that's when they happen. We can't like reorder when they happen. And I think those are the main things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for Bryce? Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay.
Will we have the ability to create our own assignments? Like if we wanted to have a reflection prompt that people submit a response to, can Moodle be used for that?
Yes. Yeah. And from what I can gather, some people are going to be like doing their training at the same time Green School is going on, and so it's going to be really handy to be able to post all these things. And some people are just going to wait until Green School is over and then start their county training, and so they won't, they probably won't care too much at all what's going on or interacting in Green School.
Bryce, this is Jason. I'm glad you brought that up. I just actually heard for somebody for the first time say that they're not even going to start in October. I didn't even know that was even an option. Since this is recorded, I mean, they could, or they can extend it past February, technically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, from the way I understand it, you have your application period, you'll have people, you'll accept them into your own county, they'll be in green school and they'll be doing it, but you don't have to do anything with them while they're in green school. You don't have to, you don't have to post anything like Caitlin's, it sounds like she's hoping to do. You could just wait till they're done with green school and then start your in-county training.
But the hard start date is October 5th for green school, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's not negotiable.
Okay, that's what I thought was negotiable.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
was confused about.
And so we do our application period from July through September.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't even need to interact with them at all. The applicants. If they're just doing green school.
If they're just doing green school, if they're just earning the Washington Gardner certificate, you will not need to interact with them. You will need to process Extension Master Gardener volunteer applications and manage local volunteer training like you always have. When you do that is separate from green school.
Unknown caller.
To an extent, right? I mean,
But there are to clarify, there are live sessions during the green school
yes,
program.
live and recorded, and those will be posted in the modules.
Okay, so like what I think Jason was getting at, like, oh, maybe if you're not ready, can you shift and just get your applications out and your advertising later in the year? Doesn't sound like it. If those live sessions, well, the live sessions are recorded, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be pretty hard to do it that way.
Yeah.
Be hard logistically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Thank you.
And there might be a slight disadvantage for the learners because the Master Gardener track learners, because they would be then not experiencing those live sessions. They'd be just watching the recordings of them later.
Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah.
So is it, and I want to second the comment Tim had that this is really a big step forward, and I think both for the participants and for the program coordinators. In terms of what county people register for, right now there's a little, at the edges where counties meet, there's a little bit of crossover where people apply wherever is closest.
Right.
Is that still going to happen, or is this filtering in a way that prevents that from happening, or?
That can still happen.
Okay.
And that's that's where our instruction is going to be extremely important when you are, as county coordinators, accepting Extension Master Gardener volunteers into the county and then saying, here is where you need to go to register for green school. Be certain that you choose King County as your group. Even though you live in Snohomish County, you've chosen to train and serve in King County. Make sure you choose King County. I mean, that's going to have to be, I think, reiterated in our communications with the new.
Yeah, especially we share Bothell, and I just heard that Bothell is Snohomish County is starting a demonstration garden in Bothell. So we're just gonna have to talk to each other. Sorry, guys, we're gonna.
And the nice thing is, see, Bryce is kind of walking you through this. The nice thing about this new system is Bryce and I have administrative control. So if somebody registers for the wrong group, he and I can change it. We don't have to go up in the, WSU AOI office and ask them to do it and wait 3 days to make it happen. We can do it.
Yeah, so I could just do this and then remove the person.
Mm-hmm.
Switch them to a different group.
Right.
And then is the cost of Moodle included in the package?
Yes. Anything else? So Linda asked, let's see. Even though we can't interact with non-Master Gardener students, do we get notified how many there are? Yes, you will be notified because you get revenue based on how many you have. And are there evaluations built into the Green School modules? Technically speaking, they're not in the modules, but we will have evaluations for 3 different audiences. Coordinators, we're really curious to know which tools you've been using that we've provided. We will survey Extension Master Gardener Track volunteers, and we will survey the Washington Gardener Track volunteers. Anything else you're sharing, Bryce?
No, that was it.
Okay.
That was it. Thanks, everybody.
So I will continue sharing my screen. Telling our story, a couple things here. Debbie, I'm hoping you can put the links to the annual reports in the chat for me. But the 2024 annual reports have been finished for, I don't know, a couple months now. We shared them out before. I really want to make sure that you know they're there and you're using them. I think they're fantastic, right? There's one that's printable and it's a shorter one and kind of provides some high level impact. And then the one that is on our website there, it's very specific to the program priorities and more in depth. So if you're trying to communicate the differences we make in our program with your county commission, with your county directors internally or externally, be sure to use the tools that are there for you to tell the story. And I am thrilled to say that we have 14 counties participating this year in our 2025 evaluation efforts. And we have 212 responses so far to the surveys. And all 9 priorities are represented. That's awesome. Like, I think that's awesome. We will share results with you as we can gather them. Thank you for your patience on that. It's we're all feeling pretty stretched. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Can you refresh my memory on what that 2025 evaluation is?
It's all the program priority evaluation efforts. So if a Master Gardener volunteer gives a talk on water conservation, there's a survey available in our program priority libraries that we're wanting the counties to use.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, my county is not very up on it. Okay, thank you. That's
You're welcome. You have a lot on your plate right now, Caitlin. Okay. Caitlin is also the interim director of San Juan County, so she's got more than just Master Gardeners too. All right, go ahead, Linda.
So we did a bunch of library classes. Like one was for pollinators, one was for winter sowing, which I guess would be nearby nature. And one was for Firewise. And I think the Firewise one did use the survey from the website, but the pollinator one, I had to create one that specifically matched her presentation. So is there a way for me to get that to you to have that included? Or?
Yes, just send them to us. We've had other counties do that. Just send them to us so that we can include them.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda. I have yours. When you send yours to me, I put them in a folder that's Stevens County for our reporting efforts. Yeah.
Did I already send the pollinator one?
Well, you sent your winter sowing one in the milk jugs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we have one coming up in July that's going to be house plants. So would that also be nearby nature?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I also want to make you aware of another opportunity to brag about who we are, what we do, and the differences we make. So Clark County Extension Master Gardeners took on a project to create impact videos for each of our program priorities. These are incredible resources that you can use. We try to not make them Clark County specific, but you can use these as a way to share about the impact of our program, post them on Facebook, get them out on your socials, share with your communications teams. I'm going to try to share this one with you. This is the Nearby Nature one. I'm pretty sure I've shared my sound here. Share computer sound is on, yep. Like 2 minutes. I think it's worth watching. The WSU Extension Master Gardener Program empowers and sustains diverse communities with relevant, unbiased, research-based horticulture and environmental stewardship education to address 9 important concerns facing Washington residents.
I think children absolutely benefit from spending time in nature. You know, the more that we're inside in these enclosed, sterile environments, the less our senses are used. When we go outside, there's so much more to hear, to see, to smell, to touch. What I find is that when my students get a chance to go outside in the garden, to dig in the earth, to see what's living there, it just brings out a completely different side to them. It's almost like they can relax a little bit more. There's this vibrancy that comes out and they love it. They never complain about going to the garden. They get in there, they dig it up so carefully, they shake off the dirt. They get so excited when they see big or small roots, and I see a lot more cooperation. I see a lot more getting along and being kind and collaborative talk. If the kids get an earthworm, everybody comes over to see it. In the classroom, some of the behaviors that we see of conflict, of not getting along, of not sharing, really seem to disappear in the garden. Days when we don't go into the garden, I hear about it from the kids. Math and science really lend themselves to being outside in the garden. This year I have a split class. So with my second graders, we'll be mapping out the garden in a grid, and they'll be doing their own square foot of gardening. But then we have our language arts part. And already we've written thank you notes to people who have donated plants. We've written about what we want to have in the garden, what we see in the garden. We've drawn about it. I think there's really no subject that doesn't lend itself to being outdoors in the garden. I knew that most state universities have agricultural extensions from my experience on the East Coast, and that those are really rich resources for the community. So I found the Master Gardener program, found the School Volunteer, and brought in lessons that were ready to go, brought in curriculum that was ready to go. We just had Master Gardeners teaching us about worms and compost, and that was a huge hit. I feel much more confident than when I first started, and I feel confident in bringing other teachers into the program as well. I think a lot of kids are still on their electronics more than we would like. That's probably the most common thing I hear my students talk about, their tablets. But they don't talk about it when we're outside. They're excited for what we're doing outside. So let's get you outside into that green space. Let's give you that opportunity and turn away from the electronics, and let's look outward at this beautiful world around us.
So there are 9, one for each one of those, each one of our program priorities. I use them. Those are they're fantastic. Thank you to Erica. She's not here. She's actually river rafting again. So, but thanks to Erica and the Clark County team. All right, and then I just wanted to give you a quick program and foundation relations update. In early June, MGF WS President Tana Hassert and I circulated a memo to program coordinators, county directors, and foundation presidents informing of the changes coming to the MOA and the MOA process. The MOA is currently with the MGFWS attorney, and once we get it back from their attorney, Tana and I and the executive team will review it and come to some kind of agreement on what the final MOA will be that we submit back to WSU Contracts and Legal for review and final product. Once that's available, I will share it out with all of you. I'm hoping maybe by the middle of July. I was hoping sooner than that, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. So the other piece of it is the review process that we're going to undertake from the WSU side. And the state foundation will also participate in this for different reasons, but we're going to review articles of incorporation and bylaws for specific criteria that we want to see, and that is in alignment with the MOA. So there's some, along with the MOA will be some best practice documents providing guidance to you and to program or into foundation leadership to support the effort that we put into creating mutually beneficial relationships with our foundations. I've had a number of conversations with foundations already, and most foundations are really they're open and amenable, and these are good conversations that we're having. Every county operates a little bit differently, so we're not. I'm trying really hard not to be too prescriptive in this, but we also coming at it from the idea of there are specific things that WSU expects from foundations. And what are those? And how can we get at that without being too prescriptive? It's about intent, right? And creating these mutually beneficial relationships. So I think when you're talking with your foundation leadership, make sure they know that they're key supporters of our program. They provide opportunities for our program to be nimble and flexible in ways that we can't as WSU. And they provide opportunities for leadership in the program, you know, in the foundations that is separate from what WSU can provide. So I know I've had somebody tell me this is so top down, and I'm really not wanting this to be top down. We want this to be collaborative. We want to have good conversations. These are not hardline negotiations. They're good conversations that come from a place of wanting to do what's best for our program, for our foundations, and from a place of learning and understanding. So think about these talking points and the idea of the matrixed structure and decision making. And when I say matrix structure, we're all responsible to more than a single person or a single entity. When we as program coordinators make decisions, those decisions impact the foundations. When foundations make decisions to apply for grants, or you know, whatever else they make their decisions, that impacts the program. So we should not be making decisions separate in a vacuum from each other. The decisions need to be made together all of the time. So we're continuing to work on this. I really feel like we've made huge progress over the last year, and I'm pleased with the direction that we're going. And I'm here to help and support as needed. Any questions about this? Okay. The DEI team is still working on developing a matrix for evaluating training applications. And then infrastructure, don't forget about the open labs that the M365 adoption team is offering on, what is it, Alex, the first Thursdays of the month at 9 a.m.
You got it.
Okay, not July 3rd though.
Yep, you got that too.
Okay. All right, our next meeting is July 23rd. Tomorrow is Staying Mission Driven. I hope to see you there. Anything for good of the group?
I have a question about interviews for trainees.
Okay.
I'm curious what some of the counties do as far as interviews when it comes to and how that fits into the selection process.
Anybody want to share?
I could, oh, go ahead, Pete.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Tim. I think I've been a coordinator now since 2017, and I've still kind of, my process has kind of evolved. I did one-on-one interviews before COVID with a few master gardeners, and we had a set list of questions. And then after the pandemic, we started doing group interviews and more like less about the volunteers and more about the program and really being clear about what the expectations are. And I feel like my success rate on choosing applicants hasn't changed. So and my only advice is trust your gut. Like if if you're feeling like somebody's gonna not be a good fit, I definitely encourage you to noodle on that a little. So that's all.
Thanks, Caitlin. Tim, were you going to share?
Yeah, and I'm going to second what Caitlin said. We've moved from a more individual focused interview to group interviews and seeing how people respond in a group situation, how they relate to each other. And I also agree that I'm not sure that our outcomes are better, but we feel better about the process. So we focus mostly on making sure potential volunteers know what to expect and know about the program so that they don't come into it and think, wait, I just wanted classes. Now you're asking me to do all this other stuff. So we really focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tim. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, we're also moving towards we're going in the opposite direction of everyone else. We're going from no interviews at all to group interviews because for the same reasons we find that people's biggest challenges they didn't, maybe they knew, but they didn't know how to expect the workload as a volunteer. So we feel like group interviews will be a format in which we can say that in a way that isn't confrontive. It's not going, well, do you know you're going to do this? Can you commit to it? But more, here's what it'll be like. And this is an opportunity for you to decide if that's a good fit for you.
Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about how you handle the pest management recommendation agreement and how it crosses personal values to make sure that you're getting people understand that they will have to provide a pest management recommendation?
Yeah, and that's something that we've always had conversations with people as they, even before they apply and as they get ready to apply, but we're definitely going to focus on making sure people understand that as a volunteer, they need to read and incorporate the pest advice agreement into their actions. But, we're thrilled to be able to offer them green school regardless. So I think I'm really excited that we have this alternative. I think for years and years, we've had either people kind of get sharp at the elbows within the program about the requirements of signing the pest agreement, or people who just opt out of all the good learning that they could have. And this is going to be an opportunity for reaching an audience we've always kind of bubbled ourselves out of before.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Laurel, let's hear what Laurel has to say. She's been doing this a while.
Yeah, I just I do a similar thing to what folks have said. I have volunteers conduct the interviews. I don't conduct those. And they have a set set of questions that they ask, but the purpose of the interviews that we see is mostly to really be sure that folks understand what they're getting into. So and that's important, as everybody else has said. We've pretty much eliminated the people who take the training and say, oh, well, I didn't think I was gonna have to do all this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, it kind of, I have volunteers do it because they can talk about their individual experiences and projects that they're working on and help kind of hook people in. And and I can't remember what I was gonna. Oh yeah, we do talk about the pest management agreement as well, just to make sure that folks know there's room for creativity, but not with pest management recommendations.
Great, thanks, Laurel. All right. Was that helpful, Erin? Erin
Yes.
asked that question, right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where we were headed with it, but I was just kind of wanted to see what other people have done, because I know the last couple of years they haven't done interviews at all, and it's kind of hit us. And
When I was in the county, I interviewed along with a couple of other volunteers. We interviewed everybody, and we had a set list of questions. And it was really, I would start everyone like, this is just an opportunity for us to get to know each other, right? You tell me a little bit about you, I tell you about the program, so we're all on the same page and we know what to expect from each other. And I also looked for a volunteer ethic. I mean, that was really important for me. And I feel like if they had a volunteer ethic, they were going to stick around. And if they didn't have a volunteer ethic, you know, on their application, I kind of dug in a little bit to try to figure out where they had volunteered in the past. And often I would find that they absolutely volunteered. They just didn't realize it was volunteer work. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Reach out if you have questions. I feel like we're doing good work. Appreciate all of you. Congratulations again to Island County. Bye-bye.